The crimson nebula blazed against the void of space, its scarlet tendrils reaching out like ancient fingers across the battlefield. Sovereign Khazar, supreme commander of the Drachnid Empire, stood aboard his flagship's command deck, his towering frame casting a long shadow across the holographic battle map. His crystalline armor, forged from the cores of dying stars, reflected the crimson light of the nebula, making him appear as if he were bathed in blood. "My lord, the Syndicate forces are advancing from 3 vectors," reported Commander Vexthor, his scaled skin shifting colors with anxiety. They'd broken through the Centaurian defense line. Khazar's four-fingered hand tightened around the hilt of his ancestral blade. For 3 centuries, he had led the Drachnid Empire to glory, unifying countless species under one banner, bringing order to chaos. Now, in the heart of the Crimson Nebula, he faced the greatest threat to his reign. A coordinated assault by the Stellar Syndicate, a coalition of rebel systems. But something felt wrong. The enemy's movements were too precise, too knowing. They struck at exactly the right weak points, as if they knew his battle plans intimately. Khazar's secondary hearts began beating faster as realization dawned. "Signal the Arcturian fleet," he commanded. "Tell them to move to position Alpha 7 immediately." He waited for the acknowledgement, but instead, silence filled the command deck. The holographic displays flickered, and one by one, the signals from his allied fleets began to vanish. "My lord," Vexthor's voice carried an edge of fear. "The Arcturians. They're retreating. The Centaurians too. All allied fleets are disengaging." The betrayal hit Khazar like a physical blow. His most trusted allies, species he had protected and elevated for centuries, were abandoning him in his hour of need. He watched in disbelief as ship after ship jumped to hyperspace, leaving his flagship exposed to the advancing Syndicate forces. "Prepare for immediate combat," Khazar roared, his voice echoing through the command deck. All warriors to battle stations. But even as he gave the order, he knew it was too late. The first salvos from the Syndicate ships tore through his vessel's weakened shields, sending cascading explosions through multiple decks. The next few moments were chaos. Khazar fought his way through burning corridors, leading what remained of his loyal Drachnid warriors in a desperate defense. His ancestral blade sang as it cut through enemy borders, but for every foe he struck down, 2 more took their place. A massive explosion rocked the ship, sending Khazar crashing through a bulkhead. Pain exploded through his body as several of his bone plates cracked. Through the haze of agony, he saw his remaining warriors fall, one by one, to the endless wave of attackers. The last thing he remembered was the sensation of falling, his flagship breaking apart around him as it entered the atmosphere of an unknown planet. His enhanced biology kept him alive through the crash, but just barely. He lay in the wreckage, his once magnificent armor shattered, his body broken, watching as the ships of his former allies disappeared into the darkness of space. Hours passed like centuries as he drifted in and out of consciousness. The planet was a desolate one, all rust-colored rocks and howling winds. How fitting, he thought bitterly, that the mighty sovereign Khazar should die on such a worthless rock, betrayed by those he had called allies. His biosensors were failing, but they still registered the approach of a small vessel. Not Drachnid in design, nor belonging to any of his former allies. The ship's profile was simpler, more primitive, human. Khazar had encountered their kind before, a young species, barely spacefaring, emotional and unpredictable. He had dismissed them as insignificant in the grand scheme of his empire. Now, as their vessel landed nearby, he found himself at their mercy. The humans emerged in their environmental suits, primitive things compared to Drachnid armor, but functional enough for this harsh environment. They approached cautiously, their handheld scanners sweeping the area. Khazar tried to move, to maintain some dignity, but his body refused to respond. "Over here," a female voice called out. "We've got a survivor." Their leader, a woman with dark skin and determined eyes, knelt beside him. Her scanner hummed as she assessed his injuries. Multiple fractures, internal bleeding, but he's alive. We need to get him stabilized. Khazar wanted to refuse their help, to die with what remained of his pride intact. But as consciousness slipped away from him again, he realized he no longer had a choice. The last thing he saw was the concern in the human's eyes. Not fear, not calculation, just genuine concern for a wounded being. In that moment, before darkness took him, Sovereign Khazar, Supreme Commander of the Drachnid Empire, experienced something entirely new: humility. And somewhere in the depths of his warrior's soul, a small spark of change began to glow. The medical bay of the human research vessel, Horizon Seeker, was never designed to accommodate a being of Khazar's size or complexity. Yet here he lay, his massive frame taking up 2 standard medical beds pushed together, while the ship's medical officer, Dr. Nadia Patel, worked tirelessly to keep him alive. Through the haze of pain and medication, Khazar observed the humans with growing confusion. Their technology was primitive by Drachnid standards. They still relied on physical displays rather than neural interfaces, and their medical equipment seemed almost archaic. Yet they approached his alien physiology with remarkable adaptability, using creative solutions to overcome their technological limitations. His tertiary circulatory system is failing, Nadia announced, her fingers dancing across a holographic display. We need to reroute blood flow through the secondary heart. The ship's engineer, James Rodriguez, had jury-rigged their medical equipment to interface with Khazar's biosystems. The power draw is massive, he warned. We'll need to divert energy from non-essential systems. Do it, ordered Captain Amara Okanjo, her voice carrying the quiet authority that had first caught Khazar's attention. We didn't come all this way to lose him now. Khazar struggled to understand their motivation. In his experience, such dedication always came with a price. Yet these humans demanded nothing, asked for no oaths of loyalty, sought no political advantage from their actions. Their behavior defied everything he knew about power and alliance. As days passed, Khazar's strength gradually returned. His enhanced healing, combined with the human's persistent care, slowly knitted his broken body back together. But it was during the quiet hours of the ship's night cycle that the real healing began. Captain Okanjo would often sit with him during these times, sharing stories of Earth and human history. She spoke of ancient kingdoms that fell and rose again, of leaders who learned that true strength lay not in dominance, but in wisdom and compassion. Your empire, she said one night, how many species did it unite? 17 major races, Khazar answered, his voice still rough from injury. All brought to order under Drachnid rule. Brought to order, she repeated thoughtfully. But were they truly united? The question disturbed him more than he cared to admit. He had always equated unity with submission, viewing the fear and respect of his subjects as proof of his successful leadership. But these humans, their small crew, showed him a different kind of unity. He watched as they worked together, each contributing their unique strengths. Engineer Rodriguez's technical brilliance complemented Dr. Patel's medical expertise. The young xenobiologist, Raj Kumar, brought enthusiasm and fresh perspectives, while Security Chief Diana Torres maintained their safety with quiet vigilance. They functioned not through fear or dominance, but through mutual trust and respect. During his recovery, Khazar received the first concrete news about his empire. The humans' long-range communications picked up scattered transmissions suggesting that the Stellar Syndicate had seized control of key Drachnid systems. His former allies had quickly pledged allegiance to the new regime, their loyalty proving as ephemeral as morning dew. The news should have filled him with rage, yet Khazar found himself experiencing an unfamiliar emotion: disappointment. Not in his enemy's victory, but in his own failure to build something truly lasting. Your people, he said to Captain Okanjo one evening, they follow you without fear. How? She smiled, a gesture he had learned to read as genuine. They follow me because I would never ask them to go where I wouldn't go myself. Leadership isn't about making others smaller. It's about helping them become greater. The concept was alien to him, yet he couldn't deny its appeal. He thought of his vast empire, built on intimidation and force. How many potential allies had he turned into enemies? How many opportunities for true collaboration had he destroyed in his quest for dominance? As his body healed, Khazar found himself spending more time with the crew. He learned of Earth's complex history, its countless cultures and philosophies. The humans spoke freely of their mistakes and failures, viewing them not as weaknesses but as opportunities for growth. Their willingness to acknowledge vulnerability while maintaining strength fascinated him. One day, while observing a routine maintenance operation, Khazar witnessed something that challenged his deepest beliefs. A technical malfunction had caused a pressure leak in one of the ship's sections. Instead of ordering a subordinate to handle the dangerous repair, Captain Okonjo suited up alongside Rodriguez. They worked together, officer and engineer, their ranks meaningless in the face of a common challenge. The incident forced Khazar to confront uncomfortable truths about his own leadership style. He had always remained above his subjects, believing that distance maintained authority. Yet here was a leader who gained respect by standing beside her people, sharing both their risks and their triumphs. As his strength returned, Khazar began to assist the crew in small ways, applying his advanced knowledge to improve their systems. Each time they expressed genuine gratitude, not the fearful thanks he was accustomed to receiving. Slowly, reluctantly, he found himself drawn into their community. But fate wasn't finished with the fallen emperor. As the humans helped him rebuild his body, unseen forces were gathering in the darkness of space. The peace of his recovery was about to be shattered by revelations that would shake the foundations of everything he believed in. The first warning came in the form of an encrypted transmission, picked up by the ship's communications array. Its contents would set in motion a chain of events that would either complete Khazar's transformation or destroy him entirely. The message was brief, but its implications were enormous. The betrayal runs deeper than you know. Trust no one from your old life. The encrypted message haunted Khazar's thoughts as he stood in the Horizon Seeker's observation deck, watching the stars drift by. His reflection in the reinforced glass showed a changed being. His once pristine armor replaced by a simple medical garment, his proud bearing tempered by recent experiences. But it was his eyes that had changed the most, holding a new awareness that both troubled and intrigued him. The ship's AI had managed to trace the transmission's origin to a small mining outpost on the fringes of what was once his empire. Captain Okonjo had agreed to investigate, though Khazar sensed her hesitation. She knew, as did he, that this could be a trap. "We've detected unusual energy signatures," Raj reported during a morning briefing. "The patterns match Drachnid technology, but there's something else, something I've never seen before." Khazar's secondary hearts quickened. "Show me." When the data appeared on screen, his blood ran cold. "These are Shadowman signatures, High Counselor Vrax's personal guard." The revelation hit him like a physical blow. Vrax, his most trusted advisor for over a century, the architect of his empire's diplomatic relations. If Vrax was involved, the High Counselor, Khazar explained to the attentive humans, possesses technology that can manipulate neural networks. We used it to maintain order in disputed territories. The words tasted bitter now. If he's behind this, then the entire betrayal could have been orchestrated from within. Captain Okonjo finished, her eyes narrowing. "Your own advisor turned your allies against you." The truth of it burned through Khazar's remaining pride like acid. He had been so certain of his power, so confident in his control, that he'd failed to see the corruption growing within his own inner circle. The humans exchanged glances, not of judgment, but of understanding. Diana Torres, ever practical, began outlining security measures. "We'll need to shield our neural systems if this Brax can manipulate minds. Your primitive technology might actually be an advantage." Khazar interrupted, seeing the situation with new clarity. "Your reliance on physical interfaces makes you immune to many of his methods. The next few days were spent preparing. Khazar worked closely with Rodriguez to modify the ship's systems, finding himself increasingly impressed by the engineer's intuitive understanding of alien technology. The human's ability to adapt and improvise continued to surprise him. As they approached the mining outpost, Dr. Patel noticed something in Khazar's medical readings. "Your stress indicators are elevated," she said quietly. "Are you sure you're ready for this?" In the past, he would have bristled at such concern. Now he found himself appreciating it. "No," he admitted, "but that has never stopped me before." The outpost hung in space like a wounded animal, its dark metal structures showing signs of recent conflict. As they docked, Khazar felt the weight of his past pressing down on him. He had visited countless such facilities as a conqueror, never considering the lives within. Now, he entered as something else entirely. The evidence they found inside the outpost confirmed their worst fears. Data logs revealed the extent of Vrax's manipulation. Years of subtle influence, turning species against each other, creating dependencies that could be exploited. The High Counselor had engineered not just Khazar's fall, but the slow corruption of the entire empire. "He used your own methods against you," Captain Okonjo observed, her voice gentle but firm. "The fear you inspired in others became the tool of your destruction." The truth of her words struck deeper than any physical wound. Everything Khazar had built, every alliance he had forced, every subject he had terrified into submission, all of it had created the perfect conditions for his own downfall. But it was in the outpost's central chamber that they found the most damning evidence. Vrax had left a message, knowing Khazar would eventually find it. The holographic image of the High Counselor, with his characteristic smirk, delivered the final blow. "My dear Sovereign," the recording began, "if you're seeing this, you've survived. How disappointing. You taught us well. Strength is all that matters. Fear is the only reliable tool, and loyalty is for the weak. We simply proved to be better students than you anticipated." Khazar wanted to rage, to destroy, to react as he always had, with violence and dominance. But as he felt the human's presence beside him, steady and supportive, he understood that he faced a choice. He could remain the emperor he had been, ruling through fear and forever vulnerable to its limitations, or he could become something new. The decision crystallized as they discovered Vrax's next target, Earth. The High Counselor planned to use humanity's isolation and relatively primitive technology to create a perfect testing ground for his neural control systems. The species Khazar had once dismissed as insignificant now faced annihilation. Looking at the humans who had saved him, who had shown him a different way of existing, Khazar felt something he had never experienced before, a desire to protect that came not from duty or advantage, but from genuine connection. "Your world," he said to Captain Okonjo. "Your people. They deserve better than to face this alone." He straightened to his full height, but this time not to intimidate. "If you'll accept my help, I offer it freely, not as an emperor, but as an ally." The smile that spread across Amara's face held no fear, no calculation, only warmth. "Welcome to the team, Khazar," she said, extending her hand in the human gesture of partnership. As he carefully took her small hand in his, Khazar realized that in losing his empire, he might have found something far more valuable. A chance to build something true, something lasting, something based not on fear, but on trust. But first, they had a battle to plan, and this time, Khazar would fight not to dominate, but to protect. The war room aboard the Horizon Seeker buzzed with activity as human and Drachnid minds worked together to forge an unprecedented strategy. Star charts and tactical displays filled the holographic space, but it was the conversation flowing around them that truly marked this moment as historic. "Vrax's neural control systems have a critical weakness," Khazar explained, his massive frame bent over the tactical display. "They require precise quantum alignment to affect multiple species simultaneously. Even a slight disruption could shatter his control network." Diana Torres nodded, her tactical mind already racing. So we don't need to match his firepower. We just need to introduce chaos into his perfectly ordered system. Exactly, Rodriguez chimed in, his fingers dancing across multiple screens. We could modify our communication arrays to emit random quantum fluctuations, not enough to detect, but enough to destabilize his network. The plan they developed was unlike anything in Drachnid military history. Instead of overwhelming force, they would use precision and unpredictability. Human ingenuity combined with Khazar's intimate knowledge of Empire warfare created something entirely new. But they needed allies. The Horizon Seekers set course for the Rigel Drift, a lawless space station where many of the Empire's outcasts had found refuge. As they approached, Khazar felt a strange mix of emotions. He had once dismissed these beings as worthless, yet now he sought their help. The station was a chaos of different species, technologies and cultures all coexisting in a delicate balance. Captain Okonjo led the diplomatic efforts, her natural ability to connect with others proving more valuable than any show of force. Khazar watched in amazement as she built bridges with beings he had never bothered to understand. Among the station's inhabitants, they found unexpected supporters. The quantum nomads, a species Khazar had exiled for their unpredictable nature, possessed exactly the technical expertise they needed. The shadow dancers, master infiltrators he had once hunted, offered their unique skills to the cause. As their coalition grew, Khazar found himself learning a new kind of leadership. Instead of demanding obedience, he listened. Instead of enforcing his will, he sought consensus. The human's influence had changed him more than he had realized. Dr. Patel, monitoring his biometrics, noticed the change. "Your stress patterns are different now," she observed. "More balanced, less aggressive. You're adapting at a cellular level." The preparation for their counterattack transformed the Horizon Seeker. The small research vessel became a hub of revolutionary activity. Rodriguez and the quantum nomads worked to modify the ship's systems, while Diana and the shadow dancers developed infiltration strategies. But it was during a quiet moment that Khazar experienced his most profound revelation. He found Raj in the ship's small arboretum, tending to plants from Earth. The young xenobiologist was humming softly, completely absorbed in his task. "Why do you maintain these organisms?" Khazar asked. "They serve no tactical purpose." Raj smiled, gently touching a leaf. "Not everything needs to have a tactical purpose, Khazar. Sometimes beauty and life are their own reward." The simplicity of the statement struck Khazar deeply. How much had he missed in his relentless pursuit of power? How many wonders had he dismissed as irrelevant to his grand designs? Their alliance grew stronger as more outcasts joined their cause. Each brought their own stories of life under the Empire, stories that Khazar forced himself to hear. The weight of his past actions pressed heavily upon him, but instead of breaking him, it forged him into something new. Captain Okonjo found him late one night, staring at the tactical displays. "Having second thoughts?" she asked. "No," he replied, surprising himself with his certainty. "For the first time, I'm fighting for something real. Not power, not control, but a future worth building." Their first test came sooner than expected. A Drachnid patrol discovered their location, but instead of the immediate attack Khazar would have once ordered, they tried something different. Using the humans' diplomatic protocols and the shadow dancers' stealth technology, they made contact with the patrol's lower-ranking crew. The result stunned Khazar. Many of the patrol's crew, tired of Vrax's oppressive rule, defected to their cause. They brought with them crucial intelligence about the High Counselor's movements and plans. As their forces grew, so did their strategy. They would not match Vrax's empire of fear with another empire of fear. Instead, they would offer something revolutionary: freedom within unity, strength through diversity, power tempered by wisdom. The final pieces of their plan fell into place as reports came in of growing unrest throughout the Empire. Vrax's neural control was creating unexpected resistance. Species were beginning to question, to rebel, to seek alternatives. Your empire was built on fear, Captain Okonjo told Khazar as they finalized their battle plans. But fear has a weakness. It cannot inspire. It cannot create. It can only destroy. Looking at the diverse group gathered around the tactical display, humans, drachnids, quantum nomads, shadow dancers, and countless others, Khazar understood. They were not fighting to restore his empire. They were fighting to build something entirely new. As the Horizon Seeker prepared for the final battle, Khazar made a decision. He gathered the remaining pieces of his imperial armor and, in a ceremony that combined traditions from multiple species, transformed them. The metal was reforged into symbols for each of their allies, representing not dominance, but partnership. Tomorrow, he announced to their assembled forces, we face an enemy who believes that fear is the greatest power in the universe. We will show them something stronger, unity freely chosen, loyalty freely given, and courage born not of fear, but of hope. The response was not the fearful silence he had once demanded, but a chorus of voices raised in agreement. As Khazar looked at the faces of his new allies, determined, hopeful, united, he knew that win or lose, he had already achieved something his empire never had: true loyalty. The battle for Earth's orbit unfolded unlike any conflict in galactic history. Vrax's fleet emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation, a testament to the High Counselor's obsession with control. But they faced not just an enemy fleet, but a revolution. The Horizon Seeker, now modified with technology from a dozen species, led the resistance. Captain Okonjo stood at the command center, with Khazar at her side. No longer a fallen emperor, but a trusted advisor and friend. Neural control network activating, Raj reported, monitoring the quantum frequencies. Vrax is attempting to assert dominance over all connected systems. Now, Khazar commanded, and Rodriguez initiated their countermeasure. The quantum disruption field, developed by human engineers and quantum nomad theorists, rippled through space. Throughout Vrax's fleet, neural controls flickered and failed. The High Counselor's voice crackled across all frequencies, filled with rage. You dare challenge the new order, Khazar. You, who taught us that strength alone matters. I was wrong. Khazar responded, his voice carrying not just to Vrax's fleet, but to every corner of the former empire. True strength isn't about control. It's about trust, about building something greater than ourselves. The battle that followed was unlike anything either human or alien eyes had witnessed. Shadow dancer ships appeared and disappeared, sowing confusion in enemy formations. Human tactics, unpredictable and creative, broke through strategic algorithms designed for conventional warfare. The quantum nomad's reality-bending technology turned space itself into a maze. But it was the defections that truly turned the tide. As Vrax's neural control crumbled, ship after ship broke formation, turning to join the resistance. The High Counselor had built his power on fear and control, forgetting that both could be broken. In the chaos of battle, Khazar and a small team including Captain Okonjo and Diana Torres boarded Vrax's flagship. They fought their way through corridors where Khazar had once walked as an emperor, but now he moved with a different purpose. They found Vrax in the command center, surrounded by failing systems. The High Counselor laughed when he saw them, a bitter, empty sound. You've gone soft, Khazar, consorting with humans, preaching about trust and unity. What happened to the emperor who brought 17 species to heel? He learned, Khazar replied simply, from those he once thought beneath him. And now, Vrax, your reign ends, not through force alone, but through choice. The final confrontation was brief. Vrax's neural technology, designed to control others, proved useless against beings acting from genuine conviction. The High Counselor fell not to superior firepower, but to the combined efforts of humans and aliens working in true harmony. In the aftermath, as Earth's orbit cleared of debris and the fleet regrouped, Khazar faced a moment of truth. The surviving Imperial forces looked to him, expecting him to reclaim his throne. Instead, he did something unprecedented. "The age of empires is over," he declared, his voice carrying to all assembled ships. "We will build something new, not an empire, but a federation. Not subjects, but partners. Not fear, but trust." The transition wasn't easy. Centuries of imperial rule had left deep scars on countless worlds. But the humans proved invaluable in this new endeavor, their experience with democracy and cooperation providing a framework for the future. The Horizon Seeker became a symbol of this new era. Its crew, human and alien alike, traveled the stars not to conquer but to connect, to heal, to build. Captain Okonjo and Kazar worked together, showing the galaxy that leadership could be shared, that power could be gentle. 1 year after the battle, Kazar stood again in the ship's arboretum, watching Earth's plants grow alongside specimens from 100 worlds. Dr. Patel's latest scans showed how his biology had changed, adapted, grown. Like the Federation itself, he had become something new. "Did you ever imagine this?" Captain Okonjo asked, joining him among the growing things. "When we found you on that desert world?" "Never," he admitted. "I thought I knew everything about power, about leadership. Instead, I had to lose everything to learn what truly matters." The Horizon Seeker continued its journey through the stars, carrying with it the seeds of a new civilization. Kazar, once an emperor of fear, now served as a guardian of hope. The humans who had saved him had given him more than life. They had shown him a better way to live. And in the vast expanse of space, the story of the warrior king who learned to trust became legend. Not because he was the mightiest, but because he had the courage to change. The galaxy would never be the same, and neither would those who had dared to imagine a different future. In the end, it wasn't strength that had saved them, but something far more powerful, the simple human belief that together they could build something greater than fear.